Hello and welcome back to We're Not Your Typical. Today we have on the show Sara, a head teacher talking about the schooling system, as well as a consultant specialising in women with neurodivergency. Sara, hello.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on.
I'm excited.
Very. So it's just me today. My work wifey is not very well today, so you've got me.
That's lovely.
But we'll have a good chat.
Send love to Jade. I hope she feels
exactly.
better.
Thank you. So I think the topic we really want to discuss, a couple of topics. The schooling system.
Yeah.
And neurodivergence in females, in girls and adults and ladies, etc.
Yeah.
So fire away, introduce yourself, let everyone know who you are. You've also got your own Instagram page, Sarah Donnelly. So guys, get following on that as well. Amazing advice. But yeah, fire away.
Yeah, so I'm Sarah Donnelly. I'm a head teacher at the moment. I've got a few working days left. I'm leaving at the end of this term. I've been in education for 14 years, bit of a potted history before that. Typical ADHD.
Typical.
I was a journalist at one point, trainee accountant at another.
Love it.
But yeah, more recently, I've been in the education system. I specialise in SEN and particularly in neurodivergence in girls, which is partly because of my own lived experience with myself, but also my daughter. I am leaving the system because I feel that it is inherently flawed, and I found it difficult to continue, pushing policies and having to make decisions that didn't align with me morally. And I'm moving into having my own consultancy. So I have been sort of quietly frittering away in the background in my evenings and on the weekends, building a consultancy business. So I offer advocacy support for parents, which has really taken off, actually. And I also am trying to get into schools to do training on neurodivergence because it is really needed. And
it's really needed.
Yeah.
For me, I've mentioned it in a couple of podcasts before, I'm a life coach and I work with children. And I actually stopped that whilst I was going through my daughter's diagnosis because I couldn't bear to see how these children were suffering and refusing to come to school and just not feeling comfortable in their own skin at school. And that's where I found that there was a big line between just giving kids counselling because they may have some problems at home that just need to kind of just be monitored and mentored during their schooling day, and neurodivergent children.
Yeah.
And I think that's where schools, and you may agree or you may not, but I think you will, have a problem, or I don't even know if it's a problem, I don't know what the word is, but that they may be able to not differentiate the difference between a child that has additional needs and a child that has...
Yeah, I think you're right. There is a difference. I think there is a massive problem with the undertraining in this field in schools, in SEN in general. It is something the current government are saying that they're going to improve. I'd like to see that drastically improved and not just a few tick boxes.
Yeah.
But when I look at the journey that we've been on, you know, if I tell you a bit about my daughter's diagnosis, so please. She, I knew when she was really young that there was something just different. Her tantrums weren't just tantrums, they were something else. She just couldn't regulate in the same way perhaps that the other children could, and the separation anxiety was there. It was just a really difficult time. But I kept being told she'll grow out of it, let's wait and see. I had all the typical, you know, you need firmer boundaries, that sort of comment. And if it wasn't for the fact that the Senko in my daughter's school was actually one of my closest friends and therefore saw us outside of the school, we never would have had that diagnosis.
Wow.
And she has an autistic teenager now, but who had been through a similar journey herself. And she just took me aside one day and said, have you considered that she could be autistic? And I was just blown away. I was like, what? No way. I knew there was something, but it just really threw me. The more I started to look into it, the more I realised that this could be what we were dealing with. But then going through the diagnosis process, I had professionals say, but she makes eye contact, so she can't be autistic. Oh, but she's got friends and she's social, so she can't be autistic. And all of these things they're just incorrect. They're not based on the actual research in neurodivergence in girls.
But also, is it just girls?
I don't want to generalise because boys absolutely can show the same traits as girls. But when you have a look at the diagnosis rates, they estimate that about 80% of girls are undiagnosed neurodivergent girls. And the reason for that is because that girls are more likely to have an internal presentation rather than an external presentation. So it can boil down to that crazy busyness of the mind and the anxiety. And also, generally speaking, again, because boys absolutely do mask, but girls tend to mask more heavily and for longer.
Yeah.
And therefore, what the comments that the parents often get is, but they're absolutely fine in school. Whereas boys more likely to actually explode or have those behavioural difficulties within the classroom, so it gets picked up earlier.
So that's interesting, a lot going through the schooling system for you, and obviously being a head teacher. You mentioned that girls can mask more in school. Can you see with your children that you look after, obviously being the head teacher and dealing with the SEND side, that it's not just masking involved and there is more, because you've got the experience of your daughter and yourself?
Absolutely, 100%. And I think that comes, like you say, with experience, but also the understanding. Because once you do understand neurodivergence in girls and you know what you're looking for, the signs are absolutely there. It's just that they're often overlooked. So, for example, stimming will be more subtle in girls. I mean, I'm ADHD. Well, I'm going through my diagnosis at the moment. And I stim quite heavily, which is, I've got my fiddle toy in my lap. But girls are more likely to twirl their hair, bite their fingernails, maybe a subtle tapping on the floor. Yeah. So that can be completely overlooked by, an observer.
And it's so subtle that
because it's
it might not
very
be
subtle.
Yeah.
And you can hold it in, but it is there. So if you observe those children and also listen to what's going on at home and what's going on behind the scenes, it's about pulling together the jigsaw pieces and making sure that you really scrutinise each one to check it's in the right place.
Sure. And I think that's what's really difficult, especially in school.
Yeah.
You've got 8 million different jobs to do.
Yeah.
But the SEND side is a really large side, and things can really be overlooked because unless there's very obvious behaviours, then they're going to be pushed to the back. And I feel that with my son Marley. I've always said it, and I even had one of my closest friends yesterday at school saying there is nothing wrong with him. He is so similar to your daughter with his needs. Obviously, I don't know the ins and outs of your daughter, but from what you're saying, he's social, he's got eye contact, he's verbal. His behaviours are through the roof and he cannot regulate himself at all. And I know, because I have an autistic daughter, that there's going to be some neurodivergence there. I don't know what the label is. I don't wish to have a label for my child, but I know there will be one. But it just shows how wide and how every single individual can display so differently. Yes. And still have the same diagnosis.
Yeah, and just touching on what you said about labels, you know what I always say to parents, because I think parents often worry about labels. I'm pro-label, if you like. If you don't have the correct diagnosis and the correct label, your child, or as an adult, you will be given the wrong one. And the labels that you will be given are immature or shy or awkward or challenging or boisterous. They will be the labels that you get one way or another. Yeah. When you have a diagnosis and you can say that this is actually why I'm struggling with XYZ, then you get the support in place. So I'd always say don't be too shy of labels, because they're not there just to be a stamp on a child. It's about ensuring they get what they need.
So I've got a really good question that I think a lot of people will hopefully relate to, or they want the answer. I work, as I said, with young children. Are you primary or secondary, by the way?
Primary.
Okay, cool. So I work with children from any age from 7 upwards. Yeah. And a lot of parents come to me at the end and say, right, my child has a diagnosis. They don't know that they've got one. I'm really worried to tell them that they've got a diagnosis, because I don't want them to then rely on that diagnosis to be like, I've got dyslexia, so I can't do a test. Or I've now got autism, so I need to go to the sensory room 4 times a day, because this is what children do, right? What's your advice about sharing labels with children?
I have quite a strong opinion about this. Okay. And when I deliver training to parents and to staff in schools, I have got some video clips of young children sharing their view on this. How can you fully understand yourself if you don't know yourself? And I think that to withhold that information is withholding a child's autonomy and right over themselves. So yeah, I totally understand that we don't want children making excuses. Unfortunately, for neurodivergent people, not unfortunately, but these accommodations are needed. They're not excuses. And if that child learns that by going to the sensory room 4 times a day, it's helpful, then so be it. As they grow up and mature, they'll be able to tune into what they truly need and what helps them and why they're doing things. I think that so many adults now are saying that they're late diagnosed. The trauma that could have been avoided if they had only known themselves.
Yeah.
And that they would have understand why things were so difficult in, going through their lives, not just at school.
Yeah.
The couple of video clips I've got that I share, one of the girls says, I finally understood myself and why everything was so difficult, and I wish parents weren't scared to tell their children this. So that's my advice. Remember that they have a right to understand themselves.
I think, again, it also does depend on the child, because, for example, with Callie, and I know that people know who she is by listening to her, so she also has global developmental delay. So she currently, at the moment, in her classroom, she's in a mainstream school. She has a 1-to-1 full-time, but she has her own corner. It says on the window, Callie's corner, has a desk.
That's lovely.
She's looking out the window, which isn't my favourite thing, because everyone else is looking towards the teacher, but she's kind of like almost segregated, but still within the classroom. She's now, since starting school, become a lot more verbal. I would class her as verbal. I would class her as conversational when she wants to be in what she wants to talk about. But recently she's been saying, why Callie's corner? And now I'm really, really troubled and stuck with how to respond to that, because she asked me again yesterday. And she's now starting to maybe realise and understand that she is a little bit different. But for me, as her mum, I don't feel ready to tell her that she has an autism diagnosis, because I don't think at all she'll fully understand it. She won't have that sense of relief. She doesn't really know that she's different. I think a lot of children don't know she is unless they just love her for who she is. I mean, my niece on Friday, she's 7. She's incredibly mature. And she had a friend over, and we were all playing in her garden. And she came up to me and she said, "TT," she calls me TT. My friend just told me that Callie has special needs. Does she have special needs, TT? So I was like, go and ask your dad, because I'm at this point now shaking, because we always talk about how are we going to tell her cousins that she's different, because we don't want them to change their way towards them. I don't know when the right time to tell her, but as in my niece, but I also don't know the right time to tell Callie. I don't think she's ready yet. So I think maybe if there isn't the global developmental delay there, maybe she would have more understanding. So would you class it as fair, as a head teacher and a mum, that it's down to the parent as to when they feel it's right to tell their child?
Absolutely, of course. And I'm not suggesting, that you get diagnosis on day 1 and then you just blurt it out on day 2 at all.
I've got it.
I do think we have to accept that these diagnoses are a part of who our children are and who we are. And I think society is slowly becoming more understanding of that. And, in my school, we're quite open about neurodivergence. We talk about it all the time. There's a really open culture. No one bats an eyelid if you are, or an eyelash, if you are, if you're autistic or if you have ADHD. It's just not something. It's just part of who we all are. And it's not an SEN school. I think that children are observant. They do pick up on other children, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to treat them any differently. They can just be curious as to why another child is struggling with something. It is up to a parent at the end of the day, and you have to feel comfortable perhaps with it yourself as well, and how you want to share that information, and only you would know when your child is emotionally ready. I think, it's just worth keeping in mind the number of children that are neurodivergent is so high. It's so high that actually this is an everyday thing.
It's almost becoming quite cool. Again, when I'm working with my children, I've got one that is she's diagnosed, but she doesn't know that she's got a diagnosis. And she's like, my best friend, she's got autism. She wears ear defenders, and they're so cool. They're bright pink. And she talks as if it's just like, cool.
It's about being accepted, isn't it? It's about just everyone is different, and that is hopefully the world that we're moving towards. Everyone is different and everyone's unique, and whatever your issues are, if you were diabetic, you wouldn't try and hide it from anyone, and it should be the same with any other.
Of course.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me more about the real reason, I don't know if you want to get raw and deep, as to why you've been a head teacher of a school for 16 years and you have decided to leave the schooling system completely.
Well, I've been head for 3 years, just to clarify, but I've been in education for a very long time. Why am I leaving? I am leaving because I just got to a point where I was watching the system fail my daughter, and I'm having to make decisions that I don't agree with. So I had a couple of things going on for me. My daughter hit crisis point before Christmas, and she's 10, and she was 9 at the time, and she was suicidal.
Wow.
And I was being told that she's fine in school, which was bullshit. She's not fine. And we just hit rock bottom, I think, almost as a family. We were just trying to support her, and it just wasn't working. The school, we applied for an SEN school. We found this incredible school, absolutely amazing, and it's an autism specialist school, and it's for children who are kind of high masking, so academically quite able, but they just need a different environment. Very small classes, very soft and fluffy. She was offered a space, she did a trial day, and the local authority declined to place her, which was gutting.
To the point that you even went to the school.
She did a trial day and she loved it.
And then they declined.
They declined on the basis that they said there wasn't enough. Ultimately, there hadn't been enough boxes ticked. There wasn't enough paperwork in place from the previous school, even though they completely supported the move. So at that point, we ended up. She's now home. Well, she's homeschooled. She's on roll, and we're now taking the LA to court to push for the place. So, fingers crossed that could come through at any moment. Alongside this, my school, I love my school. I love my staff. I love my children. My governors are amazing. They couldn't be more supportive. But at the end of the day, I'm still having to make decisions which felt wrong. And, you're having to push policies like the DfE's attendance policy, which is far more focused on getting children through the door than it is children's mental health.
Sure.
Watching parents just feel gaslit and blamed, that I just can't keep doing this.
No.
And I can't share too much detail because I can't obviously identify children, but having children where we're desperately trying to get them the right support in place, but our hands are tied by local authority decisions, by a lack of funding. We just physically don't have the money, and they're not giving us any more money to support a certain child. And having to, tell parents these decisions that are being made, I just couldn't do it anymore. It just felt wrong.
Do you think if you didn't have a SEN child, you would still have the same mentality? I know that's probably a really difficult question.
I certainly wouldn't have the same understanding because I know what it feels like to be gaslit. I know what it feels like to be dismissed. I got told that I should go on an EBSA parenting course. EBSA is emotional-based school avoidance. Okay. They would like me to do an EBSA parenting course. I deliver EBSA training courses, in schools. I deliver this training myself, but they just wanted the box ticked to show I'd done the training. There's no logic there. There's no rationale. What? This is just a tick box for tick box sake. So I think I definitely wouldn't have the same understanding, and I wouldn't have the same insight into neurodivergence in girls in particular. So would I still? I don't know.
But that's the worry, right?
Yeah.
That you can appreciate as well being a SEN parent.
Yeah.
And working in the schooling system. Like how many teachers and head teachers and SENCOs and staff members that, it's their job and they're probably very passionate about what they do, but they have, as you said at the beginning, no SEN training, no full understanding. I actually met a SENCO yesterday, just started talking to her. She started the job 18 months ago. Yeah. No SEN experience. Well, she's learning it as she goes. She actually went for a job as something else in the school, nothing to do with SEN, but she's got a very nurturing lovely persona, and they said, no, you need to be the SENCO of the school. And even though that was lovely to hear, and she's so passionate, she adores her children, you started 18 months ago with no experience. You were going for a different role and you've got given a SENCO job. Like that worries me a bit as a SEN parent.
Yeah, and actually the attitudes of some teachers without that experience is really frustrating. I deliver this training sometimes and then you'll still hear these comments made about, well, doesn't everyone need to learn to sit still? No, that's not what everyone needs to do, actually. Or, well, fidget toys are distracting for other children.
For others, it's the distraction for the other kids.
Yeah, it's all about the other kids. And actually, you know, I do get that. I understand every child needs to thrive. But when it's done well, it doesn't need to be distracting to other children. There are ways to put these supports in place to make it a part of the environment so that everybody feels truly included. Yeah. And I think you're right. I think to have no SEN experience, whether, you know, that's personal or lived, I think does make a big difference to how you approach the role.
Sure. And to approach the child. Yeah. And I know that every child is different and they all need to be approached in different ways. I mean, Callie's got a friend in the school in a different year and we went on a play date. And I'm like, I've got this in the bag. I've got an autistic child. Like, I can have another one with me. Well, they display so differently. One loves music, one doesn't love music. One didn't want me singing, one wanted me singing. And I'm like, okay, I actually like... Wow to Senkos and hats off, because it's learning to manage their children in the way that they need to be managed, and that's a tough job.
It is, and I think there's an awful lot of pushback from local authorities as well. And you know, Senkos, they don't always fully understand the law. Not just Senkos, teachers, schools. So a lot of the advocacy work I do, I worked for a child recently where the school had refused to apply for an EHCP, and the child clearly had exceptional need. They had a catalogue of behaviour issues. They had an individual education plan in place. They had significant emotional based school avoidance. All these things were going on. I can see as a head teacher this child needed an EHCP applied for. And the Senko had said to the parent, well, no, we can't do that because we haven't got X amount of review cycles in place and we haven't spent £6,000 on them. Yeah. But these things aren't law. They're not statutory. You don't have to do that. Yeah. You can be told that by the LA, but you can absolutely push back. And it's trying to get that message out to Senkos that, you know, push back, because that's not what it says. All you need to apply for an EHCP is to be able to show that, you know, there is evidence behind the need, that the child may have SEN needs, they don't need a diagnosis, and that they may need support above what is usual in a mainstream setting, or your everyday adjustments. That's not, that's not a lot. Yeah. But then they say, well, no, the LA won't let us. Well, you need to push back.
It's just, I find it so, and we're in the same boat. Yeah. Like, these parents that are fighting all day long, and then as you said, they have to make sure their child gets into school, so it's the whole attendance thing whilst they're in school, and then it's fighting to get more support outside of school, and you need all this other evidence in order to get an EHCP. I mean, when we got our Callie's EHCP last year, the Senko said, right, you need an OT report, a speech report, every report, which I had to pay for privately. I had to pay my dad back £50 a month to pay it all back, because the reports are so expensive. Yeah. And it's like endless, relentless, and you still don't get there.
And what you've just told me, I'm like literally bubbling up with annoyance inside, because you shouldn't have had to pay for any of those things. It shouldn't be down to you to provide the evidence, and this is what's happening. But then you can't
rely on the local authorities
to do it. Yeah. And the schools don't have the funding to get the educational psychologists in, and to get the speech and language therapists in. But ultimately, there are so many parents, if they don't have that means to pay for the private reports to support it, then what do? They're stuffed.
Massively for these people that just are stuck.
And like I said, you shouldn't have had to. The school, if they acknowledge that need is there, they should have made those reports happen. They should have got them in. So it's all wrong.
It's wrong. And I think also, and I appreciate that, and I don't want to badmouth my school, because
and the fact is you've got one in place.
Yes,
and that
but
is fantastic.
I was so desperate to get the EHCP, because I thought, great, we're going to get the EHCP. She's going to have a full one-to-one, and she can stay where she is because she's so happy in her mainstream environment. However, the EHCP came back terribly. Yeah, it's the school. Thankfully, fortunately, they are really helping by giving us a one-to-one. It's not all funded by the local authority. I mean, and let's be honest, and I don't know how much you want to admit this, the £6,000 that every SEN child gets does not go straight towards the SEN child. It goes in the school bank.
In the majority of schools, all the money is generally pooled. Yeah. So I've got to be careful what I say. My school, I am very particular. We're a really small school, and I can hand on heart say that the children get the money they're meant to have. But that means I've had to be really careful elsewhere and make other cost cuts, what you will find in some of the larger trusts in particular, all that money gets pulled.
Yeah.
And if you actually ask them to give you a list of what it's been spent on, you'll find it probably hasn't gone directly on your child.
Yeah.
And that's not right.
No. And I feel like that news has got out quite quickly to parents, and it's quite a bit of a punch in the whatever you want to call it.
I feel like I should add as well, because, you know, schools, there's so many people in schools trying so hard. Educators, you know, near tears on a daily basis, and
I can only imagine.
Leaders, it is grueling. The schools are not being given adequate funding.
Yeah.
So when you get an EHCP through, if you employ a one-to-one for a child, it costs the school in the region of 35,000 when you've got all the on costs.
Yeah.
Very few EHCPs fund even half of that.
Exactly.
So the money has to come from somewhere.
Sure.
Where does it come from?
Sure. I get it.
And this is why other things drop off, you know, why there are no TAs in the afternoons in half the schools now.
Yeah.
But it's all at the detriment of the children.
And the worry that I have being a SEN parent, and I'm sure other SEN parents can relate, is you get the odd comments from other parents. Oh, so is that one-to-one always with Callie then? Because is that not the one-to-one for the whole class? Basically saying, has Callie got this one-to-one and all our other kids haven't got anyone? Without it being, but just, you know, interesting and questioning it. And it almost makes you feel a little bit guilty, because you're like, I know that my child costs a lot of money to go to mainstream school. However, we have no other choice. And it's working for her at the moment. It may be very difficult for everyone else, but there's a lot of emotions that go on behind the scenes of even just being a mum at the school, if that makes sense. Yeah,
the guilt, that wondering if you're, you know, are you in the right? Are you feeling dismissed all the time? I think you're right. You know, people often say to me, well, what do you mean you can't get her in? What does she do? And they give you that look, you know, the look that's like, well, just be firmer with her, just drag her in. And I feel like, do you want me to get out the catalogue of, you know, incidences and self-harming and things that have happened as a result of her being forced in the right environment? Yeah. And I hear that a lot. Well, what about the other children? You know, they need support too. Yes, they do. But again, I go back to the, you know, the diabetes example. You wouldn't refuse them the insulin that they need. And we can't do that to children that need support in the classroom.
And I don't think you would want to as a teacher or a Senko or a head teacher. Like, everyone's welcome and you're trying to make it inclusive, and it's not the schools, it's the system, it's the local authorities. I think the schools really do try their best.
They do. The majority do. There are some that are slightly misinformed, or sometimes I feel like they lose their way. You know, I've worked with leaders and I've done advocacy recently for parents, and I just think, I'm not sure how you could be in that role and have made that decision. And I feel like it is just a losing of the way, getting to a point where and this is what I wanted to avoid. I didn't want to become one of those leaders where you're making these decisions that you know are wrong, but you just don't have anywhere else to go or to turn to.
Sure. I think that's what's really difficult. And I think it's the same with like paediatricians, especially when it comes to invisible disabilities. Yeah. It's a tick box system. Yeah. So as you said as well, and I know that Marley will be the same when he sees a paediatrician. Well, I've heard it from loads of parents. I know my child has autism. I know my child has ADHD, but the paediatrician said they make eye contact or they speak. So they've not given us a diagnosis. And then there's so many children that are undiagnosed for years and years and years. And that's when the trauma comes in. That's when school avoidance comes in. That's where heavy masking comes in. And then they're horrendous at home. And the load for a parent is so exhausting. I mean, we were probably up, Josh and I, my husband, last night, every hour with one child, then the other child, then this one wants to come in, and then this one's fallen out of the bed. And you've had the most exhausting night all night, and then you have to crack on all day long. Yeah. And for me, and I hope this doesn't offend anyone, I'm dreading the school holidays. Like, Callie's safe place is school, thankfully, and it gives me a break to get my work done and my things done. 6 weeks with no routine is going to be it's so tough, and then it's getting them back into the routine afterwards. Like, I've got a couple of parents that say, I can't wait till the summer holidays because my kid doesn't like school, and I'm like, no, I need these next 2 weeks to drag, because it's needed. They need it.
Yeah, I think it's funny because I was just invited on a There's it's on my Insta. I was part of a group who put together some different resources for parents dreading the summer holidays.
Yeah. Oh,
so,
cool. I need to read
have
that.
have a look at
Yeah,
that.
I will.
There's some great stuff on there. It's by the Sensory Mother. She's fantastic. But you're right. It's such it's quite a lot. You've got all these parents dreading going to the holidays, and then you've got the others that just can't wait.
Yeah.
So for me, I mean, term time was horrendous.
Yeah.
And the countdown in those last couple of weeks of any sort of holiday, the anxiety would increase, the stress would increase, putting off bedtimes. It was awful. I mean, taking her out was probably the best thing we could have done.
So she was, sorry to go back about to your daughter, but I'm just interested. So she was avoiding going to school?
Oh,
or
absolutely.
It was your decision?
No, she began to school refuse. I've always been quite firm with her that you have to go in. I mean, I'm a head teacher. I've been in education, so I'm kind of institutionalised that way, that, you need to go in, attendance matters. And then I sat there one day and thought, this is just getting worse and worse. And the mornings were horrendous. She would drag her feet. She would get quite distressed. She wasn't sleeping. She was, drawing these images and pictures of wanting to die. I mean, it was bad. And when we tried to unpick it with her, she couldn't explain it fully. But what she would say is, it's just me. I just can't cope in the school. It's not a bad school. It's just too loud. It's too busy. It's too confusing. I feel stupid because everyone's cleverer than me. The smells are really strong. It was just overwhelming. And then we got to this point, and I remember specifically, it was a Wednesday morning, and I came into the front room, and she was stood there. It makes me feel quite emotional. She was stood there, and she had her uniform on, but she had just tears streaming down her face, and she just crumbled onto the floor into like a little pile, and just, I can't keep doing this, Mummy. I can't do this. And I just looked at her and thought, you wouldn't drag an adult into work in this state.
Sure. They'll be signed off by the daughter.
Yeah. And I said, okay. And she went, what do you mean? I went, it's okay.
I've got
You're not
goosebumps
going.
everywhere.
Yeah,
You're amazing.
Oh, oh my gosh, it was awful. I did a post on it about half an hour later, actually, and I wasn't really big on social media then at all, but I just felt like, I'm a head teacher and I can't get my daughter into school. I don't know what this says. I don't know but it just feels really poignant to me. And I said, okay, fine. And I sort of soothed her and calmed her, and the anxiety sort of drained out as she realised she wasn't going to have to go in. We then started to liaise with the school, and I said, I can't keep doing this. She is at danger of, doing something horrible, and it's getting worse by the minute.
Yeah.
So we began to put in mental health days for her. So if she really felt she couldn't go in, I allowed her to say, I can't do it today, Mum. Admittedly, would open the floodgates, because I think she began to realise and began to be more honest about how difficult it was. And we hit a difficult point. They had a supply teacher who clearly did not understand neurodivergence in children, and she just absolutely couldn't cope. And then we got the failed request for the SEM place, and we said, okay, we're going to withdraw. So it was her decision, but also ours. We wanted to support.
That's amazing, though, that you really supported her and you knew what was right for her.
And the difference in her is incredible. So within about 5 or 6 weeks, she went from, if I said to her, will you read to me, or will you read to me? She would just throw the book across the wall. No, she was absolutely resistant to any sort of learning. Yeah. She called herself stupid, I'm dumb, I'm an idiot, whatever. Within about 6 weeks, and I backed off entirely. I didn't force her to do too much at first. She was saying, can we go to the library? I'd like to get some books.
Wow.
And in the evenings now, she sits and reads.
Wonderful.
She's got a little diary she keeps. She now has a tutor who, we're having to pay for, but the tutor comes in a couple of times a week and does maths and English with her, and she's absolutely thriving.
Wonderful.
But she says, I'm lonely, because she's still seeing friends outside of school. We've kept
all
up
day,
all her
every
play
day
dates.
is lonely.
Yeah, and she gets bored because we're both trying to work full time. I am, I work, my husband works, and she said to me recently, I don't want to be, I do want to do something. I don't want to be. I don't want to have nothing.
Exactly where she was meant to have gone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But the difference in her is massive. And
is that the plan then, to try and get her into another SEND school in a smaller environment?
So the school that we're going for, we've just issued a court notice to the LA. we'd had to get a solicitor to do it, to sort of try and get the school place. So I'm hoping that in the next few weeks.
The same school that was.
Yeah,
okay,
it's the only one she wants to go to, and they have a space.
Fantastic.
20 minutes down the road.
Praying. I'm so
Thank
praying.
you. Please do.
Yeah, let's leave it there then on that note, because we all need to pray for her and get her into this school. You've been really, really inspiring. Thank you so much. I've loved it. I feel like we can talk for hours. I feel like we've got so many other things that we need to cover. We're going to have you back.
Yeah, I would love to do that. I'd love
and
to
then
come
you
back.
can meet Jade as well,
That
and
would
we'll
be
do
great.
it all together.
That'd be really good.
Sarah, thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me.